Linda's 50th birthday dawned with rain and a hollow ache, until a stranger in a polka-dot raincoat handed her a leather notebook on subway. 4 vibes, she winked before vanishing. That oddball moment nudged Linda toward a virtual journaling circle run out of a Toronto community center, where empty pages became lifelines. Scribbling grief, then gratitude, then goofy grocery lists, she found her rhythm again. Who knew healing could start with a quirky stranger and ink-stained fingers? Not Linda. But here she was, laughing. Her Linda's 50th birthday dawned with rain and a silence so thick she could have wrapped it around herself like that moth-eaten sweater from her teaching days. Her fingers traced cracked leather of an old notebook, gift from her daughter years ago, spine still stiff with disuse. Toronto's community center flyer had smirked up her from mailbox, virtual journaling circle, Mondays. She'd snorted. 50-year-olds don't do vibes. Yet here she was, hunched over her kitchen table, pen hovering like a nervous hummingbird. First sentence. My house echoes. Too pathetic. She scratched it out, ink bleeding. Second try, today I burned toast and pretended not to care. Better. A chuckle bubbled up. Imagine, a woman her age fumbling through emotions like a teen with her first heartbreak. Screen glowed to life. 7 p.m., faces pixelated but warm. A woman in Colorado described journaling as peeling an onion without crying. Linda's grip on her pen eased. She wrote about her daughter's childhood fort in backyard, how wind now rattled its frayed ropes like a ghost shaking bones. Not sadness, memory, alive under her fingertips. Leather notebook grew supple with use, pages curling like autumn leaves. Some nights she wrote about her mother's lullabies, others about barista who'd winked calling her ma'am. Rain still fell, but silence. It had edges now, places to grip. By December, she'd filled half book. On page 63, she realized, emptiness wasn't a hole. It was a bowl, waiting to hold something new. Linda's 50th birthday dawned with rain and a quiet house that echoed like an abandoned concert hall. She'd planned to wallow, maybe binge old home videos, but her daughter, now in Montreal for med school, had mailed a buttery leather notebook with a note, "Fill this with something wild, Mom." Woman scoffed. Wild. She'd spent 2 decades packing lunches. Still, she cracked open its creamy pages, scribbling a grocery list before catching herself. Pathetic. A community center flyer for a virtual journaling circle caught her eye between yoga and tax prep ads. Write your next chapter, it promised. Woman clicked join, expecting retirees sharing cat poems. Instead, she found a ragtag crew, a widowed baker in Chicago, a former punk drummer turned accountant, even a soft-spoken teen documenting her gender transition. Their facilitator, Margot, had silver braids and a habit of calling journaling soul archaeology. Linda's first entry was stiff as stale bread, weather, gray. Mood, grayer, but Margot praised her honesty. Start where your feet are, she said. Linda's notebook became a compass. She chronicled misadventures, trying TikTok dances, her hip protested, volunteering a food bank, she mistook cilantro for parsley, sparking a mini riot among regulars. Laughter crept back in. One night, she wrote about finding her daughter's childhood roller skates, how their scuffed toes carried memories like fingerprints. Margot nudged her, "That's your voice. Keep digging." By winter, Linda's journal bulged with ticket stubs, pressed maple leaves, a recipe for disaster cookies, salt instead of sugar, a metaphor, Margot joked. She didn't just document life, she began shaping it. When Circle hosted a storytelling night, woman read about teaching herself to skate again. 50, how falling hurt less than standing still. Afterward, teen messaged her, "You're kinda cool for an old lady." High praise. Leather grew supple with use, edges frayed from being stuffed into bags for impromptu entries. It held not just words but proof, emptiness could be reshaped, filled with new rhythms. Linda still missed her daughter's daily chaos, but now she had her own, scribbling ideas for a memoir, befriending punk drummer over shared playlists. Rain still fell, but it no longer drowned everything out. Some days, it even sounded like applause. Linda's 50th birthday dawned with rain and a quiet house that echoed like a museum. She'd kept that leather notebook tucked in her nightstand for years, gifted by her sister, who swore scribbling thoughts could fix a soul faster than therapy. She had rolled her eyes then. Now, flipping its creamy pages, she wondered if desperation made believers of us all. Toronto's community centers had always been her lifeline, Zumba classes, PTA meetings, but walking into one now felt like trespassing on her past self. Still, she signed up for a virtual journaling circle, muttering about how 50-year-olds shouldn't need training wheels for feelings. First session was a pixelated mess of frozen screens and one woman's cat walking across her keyboard. Yet when she scrawled her first entry, 3 things that didn't suck today, something loosened in her chest. Progress wasn't linear. Some days, her pen hovered like a guilty verdict. Other times, she filled pages with grocery lists disguised as introspection. But that notebook became her sparring partner. She wrestled memories onto paper, her son's first steps, wobbly, like her confidence now, way her daughter's laughter used to bounce off these 2 quiet walls. Writing them down didn't erase ache, but it made space for other vibes, like absurdity of crying over an empty laundry hamper. One evening, she spilled tea on notebook's cover. Instead of panicking, she laughed. Stain bloomed like a Rorschach test, and suddenly it wasn't just a journal, it was proof she'd shown up, mess and all. By week 6, her virtual group had become a chorus of Me Too's, their shared pixels stitching a safety net under her doubts. Linda never called it healing. That sounded too final, too neat. But when she caught herself humming while chopping vegetables, just her, knife, and no one to rush for, she knew Notebook had done its job. It hadn't filled Nest. It had taught her to fly solo. Linda's 50th birthday dawned with rain and a quiet house, her kids' laughter now just echoes in empty rooms. That leather notebook, gifted by her sister with a wink, sat untouched for weeks until one restless evening, she cracked it open. Scribbled frustrations first, then stumbled into something deeper. Words spilled like ink blots, messy but honest. Community center flyers caught her eye, virtual journaling circle, all ages welcome. Skeptical but curious, she logged in, expecting woo-woo vibes. Instead, faces glowed on screen, strangers sharing stories with raw courage. Linda's turn came, fingers trembled. She read aloud about missing soccer games, about rediscovering her hands, not just for packing lunches but for painting. Silence followed. Then, a voice cracked through, damn, that hit. Weeks later, she dared a gutsy move. Posted a journal entry online, just a snippet about baking her first loaf of sourdough 50, how kneading dough felt like shaping a new life. Next morning, her phone buzzed nonstop. A food blogger shared it with, "This is content we need," and, boom, her words went mini-viral. Comments flooded in, same, queen and teach me your ways. Even Marjorie from book club, who'd scoffed, adult diary time, slid into her DMs, okay, how do I start? Next circle meeting, Linda arrived early, leather notebook clutched like a talisman. When she announced she'd signed up for a pottery class, because why not? Room erupted. Cheers, claps, one woman fake fainting for drama. Laughing, Linda realized, this wasn't just filling pages. It was filling her soul. Rain still fell outside, but inside. Fire. She'd found her voice, not in whispers, but in bold, buttery strokes across page. And damn, it tasted sweeter than any birthday cake. Linda's 50th birthday dawned with rain and a quiet house, her kids' laughter now just echoes in empty rooms. That leather notebook, gifted by a friend who swore by ink therapy, sat untouched for weeks until one restless midnight, she scribbled 3 words, I miss them. Pages filled fast after that, messy confessions and grocery lists mingling with memories. Soon, her journal became a compass, leading her to a virtual journaling circle where women worldwide shared stories over pixelated coffee. Toronto's community centers noticed she first. She started hosting Write and Sip nights, blending herbal tea with prompts like describe your life as a bad 90s sitcom. Laughter loosened spines, pens danced. Her quirky habit. Sketching tiny avocados in margins when ideas felt extra ripe. That leather notebook, once stiff, softened with use, its spine cracked like her heart, wide open now, but stronger. By 53, woman wasn't just filling pages, she was building bridges. A retired teacher in Florida mailed her a haiku. A young mom in Chicago sent gifts of her journal stacked with lipstick-stained mugs. Vibes shifted from lonely to loud with purpose. Even her kids, FaceTiming from dorm rooms, begged for prompts, tell me about grandma's weirdest recipe. One autumn evening, as maple leaves blazed outside her window, Linda read aloud from her journal to a Zoom screen dotted with faces, some wrinkled, some freckled, all lit up. Funny how empty nests, she mused, have space for whole flocks. Grab a pen, your story's next chapter starts now.